Okay, now, all yours.
اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to ICZ's English program for tonight, the Shahadat of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra. I'd like to start off the program by inviting Brother Mohsin Rangwala to recite Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أفمن اتبع رضوان الله كمن باء بسخط من الله ومأواه جهنم وبئس المصير. هم درجات عند الله والله بصير بما يعملون. لقد من الله على المؤمنين إذ بعث فيهم رسولا من أنفسهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. أولما أصابتكم مصيبة قد أصبتم مثليها قلتم أن هذا قل هو من عند أنفسكم إن الله على كل شيء قدير. وما أصابكم يوم التقى الجمعان فبإذن الله وليعلم المؤمنين وليعلم الذين نافقوا. وقيل لهم تعالوا قاتلوا في سبيل الله أو ادفعوا قالوا لو نعلم قتالا لاتبعناكم هم للكفر يومئذ أقرب منهم للإيمان يقولون بأفواههم ما ليس في قلوبهم والله أعلم بما يكتمون. الذين قالوا لإخوانهم وقعدوا لو أطاعونا ما قتلوا قل فادرءوا عن أنفسكم الموت إن كنتم صادقين. ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you, Brother Mohsin. I'd now like to invite Brother Zuhair to recite a salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله يا حبيب الله يا خير خلق الله، وعلى ابنتك النازلة في جوارك السريعة اللحاق بك فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. يلي مسافر إلى الزهرة على هنا ويا زايرها بألم نازف من شجونك ملايك في أرض طيبة يحملونك ولو تدري مشيت لها على عيونك خطوة على خطوة في مشيك تروى وتحسس ايش سوى بيها زمنها هنا إلى الزهرة ضم الثرى عاصرة ومنا أثار عثرة يكتب حزنها وعلى هونك إذا شفتي الحرم مفزوع تأمل كن مكسورة في صدر ضلوع تسير انت ولا تدري جرى من روح وكل خطوة تحتها للبتولة دموع قطعوا أراكتها وزادوا هضيمتها منعوها دمعتها ومنعوها ونها هذه منيتها ومرسى سفينتها سلبوا سكينتها وحرموها منها حيدر يا أملها يلي ما يهادن ولا يحابي اسمعها تنادي يا علي من يجبر مصابي مو عتب على صبرك والصبر آثار بعتابي يا باب المدينة وأنا محتارة ورا بابي مو خوفي أنا تتورم متوني خوفي من الألم أبكي ويسمعوني ومو خوفي على ضلوعي ولا عيوني خوفي ينكسر بابي ويشوفوني يا الله مو خوفي أنا تتورى من توني، خوفي من الألم أبكي ويسمعوني، مو خوفي على ضلوعي ولا عيوني، خوفي ينكسر بابي ويشوفوني. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you, Brother Zahir. Now, before I invite our respected scholar Sayyid Asad Jafri, I have a quick announcement on behalf of the Election Commission. Inshallah, ICZ will be having its board elections coming soon, and I'd like to remind all eligible members to please register at ICZ's website. You can see the link right there, or you can go onto the website and find voter information and fill out your registration. And I'd like to request everyone to submit their board nominations, either themselves or someone else who they'd like to be on the board, as soon as possible to ICZ's Election Commission. And if they have any questions, please reach out to ec2021@iczsa.org. And we do have deadlines coming up, inshallah. So we'd like you to nominate your candidates by the 30th, and we will issue the final candidates list by February 6th, and the nominees will be announced on the same day, and inshallah we'll elect them on the 20th of February. Now I would like to hand it over to Sayyid Asad Jafri to enlighten us, inshallah, this Sunday, January 17th.
Thank you very much, Reza. May Allah bless you, inshallah, and all those different youth that took part in this weekend's programs. Before I begin, let me express my gratitude to the ICZ community there in Pleasanton, California, for allowing me to address the community for these days of Fatimiyyah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our grief and our gham, and may He enlighten us and inspire us to follow the path of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القاعلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله وعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Our discussion has reached its final night. We have been talking about the principles of a successful family now for the past 3 nights, all based on the words and the advice from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam in the book called the Misbahul Sharia, the Lantern of the Path. In there, I talked about the fact that Imam Sadiq says that if we wish to tread the path of ubudiyah and become a slave of Allah, become subservient to Allah, we must examine 4 different relationships. It's not just about you and God, it's about you and others as well. And in that as well, with every single one of these 4 different relationships, Imam Sadiq now also lists 7 different principles. So when it comes to examining us and others, there are 7 principles that we have to examine. Now, I have so far spoken about 2 of them, generosity, and last time we spoke about the importance of seeking advice. And how we talked about the fact last night that, either from the parent to the child, or the child to the parent, or the spouse to the spouse, there is an immense amount of benefit when it comes to us now seeking advice of those around us. I talked about the etiquette of the one who's approached for advice and the one now who's seeking that advice. Even to the point now where if you see an individual who has things figured out, at least you think they do, or has gone through the path that you're going through now, we have to now remove the shame culture and begin now to build and realize that right now, as many tools as possible is needed for us now to stay on this path of Islam. And that leads us to tonight. And tonight I want to speak about forbearance, okay? About hilm. It's actually the first principle that Imam Sadiq mentioned. So of the 7 that you might have read in the book if you visited the site, then 3 of them we've discussed, including tonight is forbearance, generosity, and advice or seeking counsel. Now this principle is an extremely important one. It tells us that a family now that is faced with adversity either ultimately has 2 choices. That adversity can either destroy the family unit, or it can, of course, build the family unit. And it's important that Imam Sadiq is saying to us that through the hardships of this dunya, that we do understand and that we do build this idea that we do now become stronger with our hardships. Okay, I've seen, for example, situations where, the husband loses his job. He's devastated. He's so upset, right? I mean, it is a role that's very near and dear to most men, that, look, I am the one who goes out there working 9 to 5. I'm one of them. It could be both spouses nowadays. Of course, double incomes are necessary. But now he loses his job and now he's dejected. He comes home, he tells his spouse, he tells his family, they have one of 2 choices. The first choice is for them to say, you know what, Dad, it's okay. Baba, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Or the wife says to him that, look, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Don't stress. Let's get your resume out there. Let's figure it out as a family. Or God forbid, the second choice is that they turn on him. Oh, great, now I can't have this and we can't buy this and we'll never travel and I had so many plans and blah, blah, blah. How could you lose your job? I was telling you over and over again, don't go late. Put some more effort into your work. Now look what happened. Now look what's going to happen. What are we going to do? I'll call my family. They can bail us out. Well, calm down. Wait a second now. The guy is already dejected. He's down and you're going to kick him some more while he's down? No. Right. At that moment when adversity hits, that's truly sometimes one of the biggest measuring sticks of how close the family is. And forbearance is, in that same Misbah al-Sharia, Imam Sadiq narrates a hadith that says that forbearance is the light of Allah that leads you to salvation. If we understand now what our responsibility is during hardships as a family, then it really paves the way for us. But I ask all of you, if one individual now is going through a lot and they're going through their difficulties, that person looks to the family and the spouse and the children to really kind of pick them up when they're down, and that's really is a sign of a very successful family. That look, nowhere, next man up, right? If one person is down, one person is not having a good day, it's okay. If your spouse is having one of those off days where they don't feel like getting out of bed, or they're just kind of like, they're having just a mental health day, or they're shutting down, or it's okay. It happens all the time, especially if it's a go spouse. Then the other spouse now, we have to now read the situation and pick it up and say, look, if you're having an off day, it's cool. Don't worry. You do you, man. Do your thing. I got you. Don't worry. I will go ahead and I will I'll pick it up. If I have to go get the kids and make sure I arrange for a meal and make sure, the homework is done, it's okay. Right? If mama's down, if baba's not feeling well, someone else, comes up. If God forbid they have to face a tragedy now in the family, everyone else steps up and makes it, a doable and a attainable goal amongst the family members. But that only happens when we understand why the hardship is there to begin with, why the tragedy is there to begin with. Sometimes, as families, we don't understand why is it, and we have kind of mastered the process of measuring or comparing ourselves to other families. It's very natural, right? Somebody invites you over for dinner, and you and your spouse and your kids, you go, get dressed up, and you go and you go for dinner, and there, of course, you kind of mentally take pictures of the house and the furniture and how they have the bathroom set up and their kitchen and the menu, of course, and how well behaved the kids are, or how much of a disaster their kids are. All this are little click little images you have in your mind, and on the way home, of course, you debrief. What do you think? How'd it go? The menu. Cook, he's a good cook. She's a good cook. Big house, small house, right? Ugly house, dirty house, right? Great kids, crazy kids, psycho kids. All those things we all discuss, right? And then naturally you kind of compare. You know what? We're very lucky to have the kids that we have, right? Or you come home after visiting a bigger house, say, maybe we need to upgrade into a bigger house. It's natural. And sometimes when it comes to our tragedy, and as a family now we're hit with the storm, then we stop, and sometimes now we let our thoughts and our emotions and our unreasonableness get the better of us. And we stop and we think to ourselves, why? Why us? How come everybody else is smooth sailing? But for some reason, there's a big target on our chest, and God keeps hitting that target over and over and over again. And that's when we have to stop and realize the philosophy of hardships that Allah now has given us is a very beautiful one. From it, we understand that it's not always about the idea of living a hardship-free life. That would be great. That's not what Allah wants from us. What God is looking for when it comes to us is, how will you react to that hardship? How will you react to that difficulty? Will you use it now to fragment and break apart as a family, or will you use it, let's say, for example, to come together? Right? If one of the kids now ends up wanting to marry someone that you don't agree with, and will be, blasphemous in the community, right? Your extended family, the uncles and the first cousins, your siblings, and then your spouse's siblings, and this and that, it's not going to be very well accepted. At that moment, I've seen situations where now the parents turn on each other. This is your fault. You're the one that coddled him when he was younger. You're the one that babied him when you were younger. It's your fault. If you were less rough with him, you're always yelling and screaming at him. Now he's rebelling, blah, blah, blah. And now what is a moment now for you to truly kind of come together becomes a moment now where it becomes the blame game, right? He was your Shahzada, he was the prince of the house, you sat there and, he was, he could do no wrong, blah, 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 right? All you do is yell, you scream. All these things now are not what forbearance is. Imam Sadiq says that tragedy, difficulty, hardships are going to hit your family. They're bound to hit your family. That's the reality of this dunya, guys. This world is always meant to distract us and test us. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوًا وَلَعَبٌ. The Quran says that life in this world is nothing but a play. It's a sport. It's fuzuli, as you say in Urdu. It's something that you take from what you need and you move on. But how we react to that hardship is the kamal. Sometimes people truly step up, man. When there is something going on inside the house, you can always count on this one guy, be it a child, or be it one of the parents, or be it one of the spouses, that will always figure a solution. Someone else might shut down, say, I can't handle it, leave me alone, I'm in bed, it's me and my device, I'd rather just you handle it. And then that's not what's needed at that moment, right? So one of the most effective, successful principles of a family is to now show forbearance when it comes to that eventual hardship or struggle. And it's a job of everybody, young and old. Everyone has to sacrifice. If a child, God forbid, has to spend an extended amount of time in the hospital, that affects everybody. Maybe now the other siblings have to be dropped off at their grandparents' house, or dropped off, let's say, at their uncle's or aunt's house, while the parents go tend to the child inside the hospital, right? It's the job of those kids to read the situation and not complain, and not make a fuss, and simply adapt to what is happening. A lot of what forbearance is adapting to what is happening around you. And some of us are amazing at adapting on the fly, others not so much. If we're not in control of the situation, we end up now falling apart. A family needs to come together and on the fly sometimes adapt. You wake up one morning and God forbid there's a car accident. The car is totaled and you're injured, you're in the hospital, you have no wheels, figure it out, come together. You go here, you do this, you call this person. And now, like a well-oiled machine, everyone knows their role and everyone kind of adapts. Fine, it's not an ideal day. You end up spending the whole day at your cousin's house. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe you like your home, but you know that right now, things are a little bit crazy and stressful. So adapt, sacrifice, right? Learn to kind of go along with the flow until we figure things out. That is forbearance. On top of that, what a higher level of forbearance is to not allow that difficulty to go in and infiltrate your faith. That's where I want to spend some time tonight on. It's fine, Milana, I get it, man. We have hardships, we have struggles, this dunya will throw, that's fine. We say that, but when that storm hits, our faith, God himself, everything goes under question. Right? I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you want to go for a swim in a pool. Okay? Get to the pool now, you're the only one now, it's the first swim of the day, the water inside the pool is nice and calm. There's no movement inside the pool. And at first glance, the pool seems very clean, right? Nothing floating on the top, blah, 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 looks pretty good, decent. Chlorine is strong. What do? You cannonball in, right? Do a nice big dive right into the pool. The big splash now, the waves are crashing, the water's moving now, blah, blah, blah. And now you slowly notice now all the little bit of, guck and garbage, and the reality of the pool now flows to the top. And now you see, whoa, wait a second, this pool wasn't as clean as I thought it was. So long as it was still, you weren't able to see what the bottom was. The moment now the crashing of the water and the crashing of the waves and the big splash that happened with you jumping in, now all of a sudden that stirs up the pool, and the reality of the pool now comes to the surface. We're no different. Things are calm in our life. We don't understand what lies at the depth of our hearts sometimes. We think, oh, I'm good, man. I'm coasting. Things are great. My faith is strong in God. I haven't been this spiritual in a long time. Things are going great. I'm keeping up with my obligations. I'm trying to be a better person. Everything is great. And all of a sudden, splash. A tragedy hits. A hardship hits out of the blue. Affects the entire family. And just like the crashing of the waves of the pool, the crashing of the waves of that hardship now sometimes exposes the family for what it truly is. All that pent-up frustration for your spouse, all those things that you've wanted to say to your older sibling, all those things that you want to say, let's say, to your parents, all comes out because you're frustrated and you have no idea what's going on and you're completely upset and you're angry, and then the family falls apart. And then we always stop and think, why us? Why us? How come nobody else goes through this? And that's a very natural reaction. But keep in mind that while we're looking at 10 different families now, thinking, oh my God, look at them. They have everything figured out. They're always so perfect. Nothing ever affects them. 3 beautiful kids, white picket fence, they're traveling all the time, blah, 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 this and that. Nothing. Look at us. Everything is so hard for us, Milana. Why? Why is everything so difficult? Why can't it be easy for us like it is easy for them? And 10 different families will look at saying, oh, I wish that we were them. I wish we had it like them. I wish that our life was like theirs. 10 different families, 15 different families. And what we don't realize is that while we're looking at 10 different families, wishing that we had their life, 10 other families are looking at us wishing that they had our life. It's all relative. I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. So hardships are relative, right? On the outside, this family looks like they have it together, but deep down inside, what happens inside, no one's immune to hardships, difficulties, struggles, stresses in this world are not biased towards a certain family or a certain culture or a certain religion or a certain gender or no. Your atheist neighbor, your Shia neighbor, your Christian neighbor, the Hindu down the street, the Jew up the road, all of them now, their mother is also going through cancer. Their father also lost their job. So it's about how we react to these things in this dunya as a family. Sometimes, and these things are very hard to remind ourselves of during the storm. Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, has a very beautiful hadith about this very topic. He says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to elevate an individual, he places them through a very, very tough difficulty. Now, why that is, I'll get through in a moment. And sometimes the difficulty of that struggle is so much that people around that person stops and wonders, I wonder what this guy did to anger God. Right? We actually start to feel like this person is bad luck for me, right? So we kind of take a step back from him. Whenever I see this guy, he's going through so many difficulties, right? After a while, Prophet Ayub went through so many different difficulties, his closest companions left him. Out of the fear that I might catch what you have. I may be affected by this black cloud of a life that you live. Imam Muhammad Baqir says, to the point where others might look at him and think, oh my goodness, I wonder what happened to this guy. And they thank God that they're not him. But then he says, Imam Muhammad Baqir, that if they knew what God has in store for this person, they wouldn't sit there and pity him. They would envy him and wish that they were him. At the same time, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes gives them all the gold and the riches of this dunya and takes the hereafter from them. Okay, you stress-free life, right? Well-paying job, big house. Let's say there in NorCal, as you guys call it, Northern California. All these things are there. But we seize the hereafter, to the point now where people look at this guy and say, oh, I wish I was this guy, man. Look at his house, look at his car. He's got a boat, let's say, always traveling, blah, blah, blah. But if they knew what God had in store for him, they wouldn't wish they were him. They would thank Allah that they were not him, actually. It's all perspective, guys. It's all how we handle it. Why does it seem, God, that sometimes families that aren't practicing, they in fact ridicule Islam? They're only Muslims by name, and yet they live a very, very easy, simple life. Whereas we are believers, we're trying to raise pious kids, and everything is so difficult. Why is it so hard? Like, it's almost as if, I'd rather move away from the faith and live that life than adopt the faith and live this life. And let's be careful for a second now. The Quran says, do not misunderstand the respite that God has given these people as some favor of His. It's not. All they're doing is digging their grave deeper and deeper with every single moment of disrespect towards God. I'll give you a very simple example, okay? We see the oppression around the world right now, right? All this dhulm happening in Yemen and Bahrain and in Kashmir and Pakistan, Afghanistan and Palestine and Syria and Afghanistan and Myanmar, China, Nigeria, right? In the US itself. You think these guys are getting away with it. No one's calling anybody out. You protest, you post, you share hashtags, blah, 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 but nothing's really happening, right? The oppressor gets stronger, and the oppressed becomes more and more, under that oppression. After a while, you think, there's no point. They will do what they want to do, but be careful. An example I'll give to you are two different dogs. Two different dogs going for a walk with their owner. One has a leash that's 10 feet. One has a leash that's 100 feet. And both dogs come sprinting out of their home because they're excited, right? They're outside. And what they do is they test the length of the leash. So the 10-foot leash dog starts to sprint, and after 10 feet gets yanked back, then doesn't get very far, doesn't get very fast either. You think, okay, this is my controlled environment. I'm not going to sprint. It's a nice leisure walk. I only got 10 feet to work with. The other guy now, the 100-feet leash guy, he goes sprinting outside the door. He goes 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet. He thinks, oh my goodness, I'm 80 feet now and there's nothing happening here. Maybe I'm not leashed, right? Maybe I'm free. And he picks up momentum until he hits the 99th foot of that leash. And then he hits that 100 feet and he's yanked back. And that yank is severe. Why? Because he was bolting down. He actually thought, you know what? I have no leash. I'm free. I'm just no leash at all. I can go for as far and as fast as I want. So he bolted it until he hit his limits. And that leash was nothing compared to the yank of the 10-foot guy. 10-foot guy was minimal damage. Nothing happened. After 9 feet, 9.5 feet, okay, all right, I'm good. But 100 feet of momentum is a lot. Sometimes Allah gives people, these long leashes. Go. Let's see how far you'll get. Let's see how much corruption you'll do. How many people you'll rip off to make you millions. How far will you get in this world without God? Go. Sprint, gain momentum, gain speed, blah, blah, blah. When that leash runs out and I yank you back, that's going to be a harsh reality for you. So please, if you are a family right now who's going through a lot, and my du'as are with you, don't think for a moment that there's a massive target on your chest and God keeps hitting that target over and over and over again. Why does God want to punish us? Allah says, Ma yaf'alullahu bi'adabikum. What do you think I'm going to gain by punishing you? I didn't create you to punish you. Then why the test? The test has an immense amount of benefits to it. First of all, always understand that the equation of this world is that you have to go through a little bit of struggle to gain something. لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, the Quran says. Man is nothing but what he strives for. The insan, the human being, is actually now a symbol of what they strive for. If they strive for greatness, they'll attain that greatness. If they strive, let's say, for corruption, they'll become corrupt. They become a manifestation of their own struggles. It's not like, Allah wishes now to see this sort of pain. Look, I'll give you a very simple example. My parents out there in the audience. And sometimes it's my elders, and I'm also a father of three. Sometimes I think to myself, what's happening here? Why are we going through this again here? And I want all of you to be reminded of the fact that, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a murabbi, you're also a murabbi. I mean, obviously there's a big difference between Allah and us, but murabbi meaning I give tarbiyah to my children. I nurture my children just like God nurtures all of us. When we read that dua, رَبَّنَا غَفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْنَا وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. We actually now mention that the parents were our Rabb when we were younger. That Rabb and that Rabb, of course, are different. Now think about the fact that as you now give, as you nurture your child, as you upbring your child now, as you raise your children, there are some things that you're going to ask your children to do that are not going to be desired or likable by the kids. They simply won't like it. Doesn't matter. Everything from bedtimes to meals to cleaning the house to reading this to studying that to going here. I don't want to go. Going to the dentist, let's say they can't stand it. Getting a needle, they can't stand it. I'll give you a very simple example, true story. I went to India last January. The last time I was on a plane, actually, it's been over a year, and I'm someone who travels almost every month. It's been, I've been grounded for the past 12 months. The last time was us flying home from India. My wife's family is all in India. I've never taken my kids to India to show that side of the family. Now they're a little bit older. So we decided now, with a lot of himmat and courage, let's grab the kids and let's fly across the world to India. Okay. Before that now, you need your shots. You need your vaccinations. Right? Malaria, God knows what else, blah, 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 right? Hep C, this and that. Okay. So I take my kids. And my kids are not a big fan of needles. Oh, my goodness. You mentioned the word needle and they start... So my wife and I didn't tell them until they're in the car that, oh, by the way, we're going to the doctors for a needle. Otherwise, there would be a big protest. There'd be all sorts of drama, this and that. So we got there. We got to the doctors, and just like I knew, there was a massive fit. My 5-year-old and my 7-year-old. Doctor says, put him up on the bench. Okay, I did. And then, of course, he pulls out the knife and then the needle, and he tests it, and he starts to do all this sort of stuff that they do to make it look like they're doing something, right? And the big needle, okay? And my middle one now, she starts to throw a tantrum, wailing the arms, blah, 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 this and that. Now, if at that moment I stepped in and said, look, doc, forget the needle. I'm not putting my child through this. She's screaming, Baba, no, right? Screaming at me. If I did that, I go, you know what, doc? We'll go to India without the shot and we'll take our chance that she won't get malaria. Don't worry, it's okay. It's not worth this needle. Would any of us do that? No, we wouldn't. If I did that, I would be actually labeled an irresponsible parent. How could you do that? Instead, what I did was I grabbed her, right? I grabbed her head, I grabbed her arm, and bam, bam. He just kind of, gave her 2 shots, and she screamed in pain, and she was so upset, big, huge tears coming down her face. And that moment of pain was there to what? To deny her a disease that might kill her or ruin her life. I knew as a parent that she had to go through that little bit of pain for that gain. And we do it as parents all the time. Wake up and clean your room. And they're huffing and puffing and mumbling under their breath. And I don't like to clean my room. Okay. Make sure you shower. I don't like to shower. Okay. Sweep, clean the kitchen, sweep the floor. Let's go. Vacuum your room. Come on, let's go. Oh, no, I don't like to. Okay. Doesn't matter. I know that I'm teaching you good habits. You won't like it, but it's actually for your gain. So now what you do as a parent now, keep in mind now, what you do as a parent is that you keep like, a wide range of a vision in mind. All the child knows is, I don't want to clean my room. And so, they live in an airplane size window. This is everything to me right now. To clean my room, I don't want to clean my room. Meanwhile, as a parent, you're looking like 15 windows down the road when they're a little bit older, and now they're orderly and they're clean and they're organized and blah blah blah. That's you who did that when they were younger. You had that entire, it's like looking at a parade from the rooftop. You can see the entire parade for miles, not just one float at a time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is no different. We sometimes live moment by moment, window by window, float by float, and we can't understand in this small window size, why am I going through all this right now? Meanwhile, God says, look, forget that one window. I am talking about entirety. I'm on the roof looking at your entire life in one shot. I know that if you go through that hardship when you're 20, it's going to pay dividends when you're 40. I know that as a family, when you go through this hardship now, it's going to actually cash in and give you an ROI, a return on your investment, maybe 10 years down the road. I know if that my daughter gets her shots, then she won't get that disease in India. But yeah, sometimes, you know what? You have to go through a little bit of hardship and a little bit of pain. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. وَأَنْ عَسَىٰ تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ. The Quran says it could be that you despise something, it's actually very good for you, or it could be that you adore something, it's actually very detrimental for you. So hardships are not the enemy. Struggles, adversity is not the enemy. The enemy is to allow that hardship to destroy your family units. That is what the problem is. Forbearance, hilm, to be halim in Islam, is to look at a hardship and be forbearant. To understand that whatever it is that we're going through, it's going to make us a stronger family unit moving forward. If we handle the hardship properly, it's a part of life. Shaykh Mutahri rahmatullah alayh has a very beautiful, very simple example of a heart monitor. If you go into the doctor, you get your EKG, or you get your, you get an echo test, a stress test, and they put all sorts of probes on you, and they attach the wires. They put you on a treadmill, and the doctor's now looking at the reading, right? The reading is one of two, right? Either the reading is a flat line, your heart rate is giving you a flat line, which is not a good sign at all, or it's a graph of ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And you have that monitor that's sitting, beside you, and you see the thing going up and down, up and down. Those ups and downs of that simple little heart monitor is telling you what? That you're alive. Your heart is beating. There's life inside of you. The moment that flat lines, inna lillahi, khulafis, you're out. And Shaheed Mutahri says this one little small heart monitor is teaching us such a lesson. The ups and downs, the faraz and nasheeb, the peaks and valleys of life are all what? A sign that we're alive in this world. If things coast and flat line, that means that we're dead. And sometimes Allah revives us. أَبَا مَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. Surah An'am, verse number 122. You were spiritually dead. We revived you. We gave you life. Then we gave you light so you can walk amongst the people with it. Hardships are not meant to bury us. Hardships are meant to make us move on. Or if right now you are riddled in hardship, then understand that there is some goodness out of it. Let me give you a very simple example. I have these silly examples. I'm sorry, that's all I have. Sometimes what comes out of a hardship could not have come out unless that hardship happened. Okay? We wouldn't be able to discover a lot about us during the easy times. We wouldn't. In a hardship, we're forced to go into a compartment of ours that sometimes is closed or locked. But it's very, very necessary. We have an annual camp here in my community, okay? We take about 75, 80 kids from high school and university, and some young couples. for a 5-day, 4-night retreat up north of Toronto, where I'm from, 4 hours north. Beautiful area. I remember last year, not last summer, but the summer before, pre-pandemic, we had an annual camp like we do, and you know, I always join them every single year, and I always ask 2 or 3 ulama to come with us as well. So Sheikh Salim Yusuf Ali is a regular in our camps. He was when he was living here. Now, of course, you know, he's close to you guys. So I remember last year we arrived. It was on an island, beautiful island, and there's one kid who comes to me. He's very excited. I said, "Bye." I go, yes. What's going on? He goes, "I bought the sickest flashlight you will ever see." I go, "Really?" He's like, "Asabai, it's epic, it's legit, it's whatever words you guys use now. It's all of it. I went, "Wow." And he pulls it out, and it's you know, it looks like a pretty massive, heavy duty, legit flashlight. But the problem was that it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was bright. He really wanted to show me the extent of the light that the flashlight has to show. It will light up, apparently, he says, half the campsite. Like, if I'm with you guys, no one needs a flashlight. My light's enough. I said, "Okay, man." He goes, "You know what? I'm going to show you tonight." I go, "Can't wait. Show me tonight." It's okay. So that night after Maghrib and Isha, it's pitch black outside, and the walk from the namaz hall to the campfire was, you know, about a 2-minute walk. But it's pitch black. So we always tell the guys, all the campers, when you come for salat, make sure you have your hoodie, gets cold, and make sure you have your flashlight, because you can't see your hand in front of your face. That's how dark it is. And this kid's eyes lit up. Oh, baby, it's showtime. Here we go. Right? Namaz is over, comes out, right? And we're walking towards the campfire. I'm walking as well. He comes. I said, "Bye, it's time." I go, "Let's do it." Turns on the flashlight, and whoo, like legit, like it lit up like a lot of the area around us. It was a beautiful flashlight, very beautiful, white, bright light. But it took the darkness of the surroundings to show me how bright the light is. Sometimes that's exactly how we are when it comes to hardships as families. Sometimes we have to taste a little bit of darkness to see how much light we have inside of us as a family, how much reliance we have, how much faith we have, how strong our piety is. All of that doesn't happen at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Doesn't happen when things are great. Doesn't happen in the glory days, in the glory moments. Sometimes it takes darkness for us to see how bright the flashlight of Iman is inside of us. So we have to learn to embrace the hardship, be ready for it, not in a gloomy way, waiting for the storm to hit. No, not like that, but being prepared. The moment the storm hits, let's 1, 2, this is what we do. That's called forbearance. It's different from patience. Patience is, okay, I'm doing sabr, I'm being patient, but I don't like it. Inside, I'm annoyed. I have to be patient. Fine, be patient. Right? Like your kid comes to you and says, "Oh, you know, can you order this on Amazon, please? I want to look, I've ordered it. It's out of stock. It'll be here next week." "Oh God, 7 days? 7 days, really?" "Yeah, be patient." "Fine, I'll be patient." Every day, pouting, "I'm being patient, Baba." "Oh yeah, I can see that." That's not what forbearance is. Forbearance is that the hardship has hit, and now you find your inner strength now to go through it, to get through it, to take the hardship and convert it to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam is entering solitary confinement, a very, very difficult prison now to spend even 1 day, forget years and years. And all he says on his lips is, "Allah, I begged you to give me a corner of this earth where I could worship you in complete silence and complete calmness. And now you've done that for me." He saw a jail that you and I would be deathly afraid of as what? An avenue of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asking Bibi Zainab very famously, what you know, in a ridiculing fashion, Umar bin Sa'ad, "What did you find in the day of Ashura? How did you, now where's your God now?" "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila." I saw nothing but beauty. Imam Ali being struck with the sword of Ibn Muljim, "Fustu rabbil Ka'bah." I swear by the Lord that I am successful. How can you announce your success? You got hit with a poisoned sword. In salat, in the masjid, by somebody who actually believed in you and gave bay'at to you on Ghadir, would you not be upset? No, he announces, take the hardship and give worship back to Allah. Use it to build the family unit. Use it to make yourself stronger. It's a beautiful principle. It is a very important principle. Let's not wait for those moments. Yes, there are moments where things are easy, but let's not assume that life will be a problem-free, hardship-free, struggle-free life. No, that's not the kamal and the perfection of a family. The kamal of a family is what? Is to walk through the storm, get drenched through the storm, but become closer after the storm. Not only to God, but to each other as well. I can't believe we handled it. We did it, guys, and now we're stronger for it. Now the next hurdle, the next hardship will be a piece of cake for some of you. You've gone through the experience. You've seen the beauty of the light of Iman in your kids. You're now convinced that, you know what? I have the perfect life partner beside me. When I'm down, he steps up. When he's down, I step up. But sometimes it takes the family to fall to know, you know what? We're going to help each other back up. And we see that up and down the Ahl Bayt. And the sacrifice of the Ahl Bayt. Today was the day of the 3rd of Jamadi al-Akhir, the day of the Shahadat of Sayyidah Fatima, and I send my condolences. This entire weekend has been very tough for a lot of us. To all of you, to Imam Zamana, to your families, on this very difficult Shahadat. This is that Shahadat that evokes a lot of emotion, anger, grief, disappointment, sadness, tragedy. 18-year-old beloved daughter of Rasulullah should not have a handful of people reading her Salatul Mayyat. A person in our community who has a little bit of importance and is well known, might not be the best person, but is well known, has been around for 20, 30 years, and the hall is packed at the funeral. An alim-e-deen who calls himself the khadim of Fatima, the servant of Fatima, that I belong at the khak of her feet. An alim like that passes away, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people in his funeral procession. The servant of Fatima gets this funeral, but Fatima herself, a handful, in the middle of the night. That type of dhulm is tough to swallow, tough to understand. And that's why when that ghusl was done by Imam Ali and the mayyat now was ready to be buried, just like Fatima asked Ali in the middle of the night, now I want you to bury me. I don't want everybody at that janazah. Now the mayyat now leaves the house of Ali in the middle of the night. Only a handful of his closest companions are there, and they bury Fatima at a disclosed location. It's at that moment that Imam Ali stands by the grave. Some reports say that he turns towards Rasulullah and says, Ya Rasulullah, please accept my humble apology. When you gave me Fatima, she was Sahih and Salim. I'm giving you that same Fatima back. With her cheeks are bruised, her Mohsin is Shaheed, and her ribs are completely broken. Now my grief has caused me now to have sleepless nights. He grieved so much for Fatima. Some say he would dig up wells after her death and complain inside the wells about Fatima. But the one reaction that I found to be incredible was the next day when news spread in Medina that Fatima had passed and that she was already buried and the Namaz al-Mayyat already happened. There were some individuals who were shocked, who couldn't believe it, who felt disheartened that we weren't able to pay our last respects. We weren't able to be there during that process. And to the point where one group even said, let's dig up the body of Fatima with the utmost respect and now pay our last respects, recite Salat al-Mayyit, and then re-dig her with that same sha'an and the same vigor and the same respect that she deserves. When the news broke to Imam Ali that there was even a thought of there being disrespect to Fatima's grave for the first time since the Prophet's death, he took out the Zulfiqar and said, anybody who wishes to disrespect the grave of my wife, I will make you part of the dirt that you stand on. I would say this to you, Mawla Ali, the sheer idea, the sheer opinion, the sheer suggestion that somebody might disrespect the grave of your wife has caused this jalal inside of you. If only you were there on the day of Ashura, Mawla. Your beloved Hussein now, his head has been separated from his body, his clothes taken off of his back, his ring finger has been cut off, but that wasn't enough for Umar bin Saad. He says, I want 10 different horses to go and change the hooves on their horses and come and now trample the body of Hussein, 5 on one side, 5 on the other. Umar bin Saad now gives the signal. The 5 to the right go to the left, the 5 to the left go to the right. The now horses begin to trample the body of Hussein. Underneath the khak of Karbala lies the grandson of Rasulullah. One Mal'un says, when my horse rode over Hussein's body, I could hear the cracking of his ribs. If only you were there, Mawla Ali, with your Zulfiqar, maybe that disrespect wouldn't be there for your Hussein. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. معتمر حسين يا حسين يا زهراء.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد وآل محمد. قال سليم قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يك استئذان. قال سليم قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يك استئذان. فقال إي وعزتي الجبار وما على الزهراء من خماري لكنها لاذت وراء الباب رعاية للستر والحجاب. فمذ رأوها عصروها عصرا كادت بنفسي أن تموت حسرا. نادت أيا فضة أسنديني فقد وربي أسقطوا جنيني. فأسقطت بنت الهدى وحزنا جنينها ذاك المسمى محسنا. قال سليم قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يك استئذان. أتضرم النار بباب دارها وآية النور على منارها وبابها باب نبي الرحمن وباب أبواب نجاة الأمة بل بابها باب العلي الأعلى فثم وجه الله قد تجلى فاكتسبوا بالنار غير العاري ومن ورائه عذاب النار. قال سليم قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يكن استئذان ما أجهل القوم فإن النار لا تطفئ نور الله جل وعلا فاحمرت العين وعين المعرفة تذرف بالدمع على تلك الصفة ولا يزيل حمرة العين سوى بيض السيوف يوم ينشر اللواء. قال سليم قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يكن استئذان. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله يا خير خلق الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي وسيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك أيها الحسن المجتبى. السلام عليك أيها الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأئمة من ولدك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الحجة القائم المهدي. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان. الأمان 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 يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان. سيدي عجل الله فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وجعلنا الله من أتباعك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك وتحت لوائك. صلى الله وسلم عليكم سادتي وموالي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات.